Good evening, folks. I'd like to welcome you to the Red Hook Town Board meeting of Tuesday, September 9th, 2025. Would you kindly join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. It is another wonderful day here in Red Hook. We've been uniquely blessed with some good weather. So I thank you all for being indoors during this night. For the folks at home, if you'd be kind enough to pan to the screen so we can show them what's on tonight's agenda. This is the first meeting of the month, which means we'll start out with the supervisor's report. It's a snapshot of the financial condition of the municipality at a given moment. We'll have the clerk's report as well, a few announcements, reminders mostly tonight. We'll take public comments for 15 minutes. Then we move into a presentation from Eli Duker, professor at Bard College on the Hudson Valley Air Quality Coalition. And then we'll move, our next item will be an RFP for the customer acquisition and subscriber management firm. As you know, we are building our second community solar project on the Cookingham property. We have awarded the contract for construction, and this is an RFP for the firm to manage the program itself. We'll be talking again about Camp Rising Sun, the CPF application, and discussing possibly passing it on to that advisory board for their review and a presentation by Winnicke Land Trust to them. We are going to continue to do something we've been doing for years now, which is trying to gain control over the speeds on our town roads. We have been working diligently with surrounding municipalities, counties, to try to effectuate change up in Albany. As you know, New York is a home rule state, except when it comes to things like determining speed limits. What we need to do is have engineering studies conducted, and so that's what we're looking at tonight, is a town-wide study and a task order from one of our firms to do just that. Continued conversation and updates on the composting agreement. As you know, our recycling center, we accept food compost, and it's doing quite well, and we'd like to explore expanding the number of bins that we accept. We also have a resolution to establish a date for a public hearing regarding water rates and charges for the water district. Number one, this is our annual increase. The water board would like us to look at the usual 5% increase. There's been a series of those over the last few years. The caveat being that they think they are close to renovating the water storage tank, which is going to be a fairly large capital expense, and so there will be additional increases likely in 2026. We are going to have a brief, probably, discussion about the intermunicipal grant program through EFC. Last year we applied for a couple of $1 million towards the $6.5 million sewer extension project through the traditional neighborhood district. The application period for this year it ends this week, and so we'd like to go ahead and bless resubmitting the application. It's 40% of the total project cost that we could receive up to. Last thing is updates on procurement policy. We haven't updated the dollar figures in many years, and with inflation, we find ourselves spending a lot of time seeking out quotes for very small amounts of money. And so we'd like to update not only the amounts, but perhaps look at a green purchasing policy as well. And then one or two items for reorganization. So with that being said, we'll jump into just a few announcements. Just a reminder, tomorrow Congressman Ryan's Bears van will be up at Tivoli Free Library up in Tivoli Village Hall, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And this is to assist constituents with some of the federal programs to understand more about how they work and to direct them to the particular offices to apply for those programs. Hardscrabble, the village's annual musical event, is coming up September 20th. I want to remind you also this Saturday is the Household Hazardous Waste and Electronics Recycling event. As you know, we have our own e-waste event here at the town, but we don't do hazardous waste. This is down at the fairgrounds, 8 a.m. to 12:30. It's pre-registration necessary and a $10 prepayment fee as well. Here are the items that they will accept, and I'll keep that up there for a moment so you can take a look at that. We get a lot of calls about where to bring certain items, household items that can't be disposed of in the hauler trash or here at our recycling center. And this is about as close as this event has come to the town of Red Hook. So if you are looking to dispose of some of these items, I would suggest you take advantage of it if you can. One of my particular favorite events, Tivoli Street Painting Festival, is coming up in a couple of Saturdays, September 27th at 10 a.m. And you can register, pre-register for some of the squares. And how it works, if you're not familiar, we go out there, I'm one of those folks, early in the morning we paint squares, and then folks come and do sidewalk chalk, and you get to see some great artists at work. Also a couple of reminders, the Elmendorf Historic Red Hook has their open house the Saturday I have not mentioned, September 20th, and Winnicky will have a ribbon cutting also this Saturday for the new trail, the Blue Trail, over on the Salt. And they invite anybody who wants to work on invasive vines to come along as well. Okay, that's all I have for announcements. Anybody else have anything to share?
Well, sure, I could say so. I'm the chair of the Comprehensive Plan Committee. That is in its early stages and going well, and will be becoming more public this fall. So we will be at Hardscrabble Day collecting ideas, and our first public workshop will be in October, and a date soon to be announced.
Very good. Thank you very much, Julia. We'll dive right in on the supervisor's report. Again, this is for a moment in time. We do this each month to update the public on the finances of the municipality, and my office will be presenting the budget, tentative budget next month, early next month, for 2026. We started the month of August with an opening balance of $10,217,000, had receipts of nearly $351,000, disbursements of $503,000, with a balance of $10,065,000. You have in your packets the budget adjustments as suggested by our bookkeeper for the month of August, and your monthly variance reports. I'll make a note that we are starting to see some improvement the second 6 months of the mortgage tax year, which is an off-season thing from April through September. It's our hope that with interest rates perhaps finally moderating a little bit, we'll see a little bit more mortgage tax revenue. Sales tax is coming in. We just received a quarterly early in August, about flattish from this year to last year. We'll see how that progresses during the year. You know, a lot of sales tax has to do with car sales, so we'll see how that industry does in the next few months. Okay. Any questions about the supervisor's report? Okay, hearing none, would somebody like to make a motion to accept it?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Deanna, may I kindly ask you to give your clerk's report?
Okay, the clerk's report for the dates August 1st through August 31st, 2025. We had 191 walk-in window service. We did 178 notaries, and the deputy alone did 106 phone calls. I did not record mine. I forgot to print out my thing. Okay, so total local shares remitted to the supervisor, $7,749.73. Amount paid to New York State Agriculture and Markets for the spay-neuter program, $29. The amount paid to the New York State Department of Health for marriage licenses, $202.05. Amount paid to New York State Environmental Conservation for hunting and fishing licenses, $1,907.67. The total state, local, county, and local revenues, $9,888.90. And I have abstract. I hereby certify that vouchers numbered 33806 to 33852, processed in the month of August 2025, are an accurate reporting of the abstracts approved for payment by the town board in the month of August 2025. Yes.
Thanks, Deanna.
Okay.
Is there a motion to accept the clerk's report?
So moved.
Thank you, Bill.
Second.
Thank you, Julia. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good. Okay, we can take 15 minutes of public comments. Is there somebody who would like to make some public comments tonight? If you'd be kind enough to state your name, Roland, for the record, please.
Roland Page, 4827 Route 9G, Red Oak, New York.
Thank you.
56 years here. I have researched some of the daily catch reports that you participated in, and I'm going to quote some here now. I am determined to do the very best for this community. I feel like my role is to help assist the bringing of consensus. You come up with something that is a compromise for the community. Mr. Supervisor, when Bard College offered land to the town, the deal fell through. Was that because your best efforts to compromise for consensus? Or was it your way of the highway attitude? Don't expect an answer. You failed to put the necessary effort into compromise with Bard College to acquire 20 acres. Then you turned to the Red Hook Boat Club with 2.37 acres. Doesn't sound rational to me. You failed to consider the possible growth of the support from residents in the community, from the boat community and others for the Red Hook Boat Club. Mr. Supervisor, you take credit for being diligent for keep the town taxes low. Being a resident of 56 years and learning a little bit about taxes, I offer the more accurate picture. Over the years of your administration, the growth of the new taxable property and the increase in existing property value, together with grants, has resulted in a fairly steady town taxes. But you jump out and take great credit for all of this in your skill and wisdom, which I think is limited. The town has a grant writer in the budget, a grant administrator, correction. They should be responsible for completing the environmental assessments that are currently incomplete, erroneous, and/or failing, and you're failing, or you're in your filing, excuse me. Anybody's interested, I'm going to give copies of the May 28th environmental assessment report that I provided. I'd like to take the opportunity to give copies now. Yeah, leave these here for a moment. Actually, take these one. He says making 2 trips.
Thank you, Would
This
any-
demonstrates exactly, I'm not just blowing whistles about your lousy work.
Well, thank you, Roland. Next up, Lisa, if you'd be kind enough to say your name for the record, please.
Lisa Valero, Town of Red Hook. A key and crucial attribute of autocratic regimes is that they permit neither dissent nor contradiction. The notion of truth does not matter. In fact, myth and fantasy, as well as unpredictability and inconsistency, become powerful political tools. So begins an article recently written by Bard College President Leon Botstein, and how apropos to what we are witnessing. You've ignored prevailing public sentiment, the 87 Berrytown residents that wrote of their concerns and asking for additional information, the determination of the Waterfront Advisory Committee, and the multiple emails from Jeremiah Sheehan to the supervisor between May and August to discuss the Town Law 220. So you permit neither dissent nor contradiction. Suddenly, the supervisor has begun responding to public comments, but on his terms. In response to the outrage over the over $108,000 spent through June, he stated the lawsuit was brought by the boat club against the town. Now, he knows that entire amount is not due to the lawsuit challenging the flawed legislation that all 5 board members approved. Less than 1% of the $24,000 in invoices spent on planning during that period was related to legal action, and the majority of the almost $55,000 paid to Hodgson Russ through May 31st was related to initiating the eminent domain action and preparing for the public hearing. But the notion of truth does not matter. Robert stated one way to keep the cost down is not to have us need to engage our attorneys. In other words, do as we say and don't question us. Blame the victim. I guarantee that if the property you owned, maintained, improved, and which carried over 7 decades of history was subject to eminent domain on the heels of targeted zoning legislation, you'd fight it too. But your message is to stand down and let us roll right over you. The best way to not engage the attorneys is to abandon the unpopular action that the majority of the residents have told you is not needed. And your gratuitous and unprofessional statement regarding unrelated lawsuits in another county was simply meant to smear an individual and infer non-existent actions here in Red Hook. It was a myth. Jacob, you've chosen to stake your professional and personal reputations on this overreach manufactured by the supervisor. We ask you to please re-examine your position and give the same consideration and concern to the property owners that you do to the students that seek your assistance in protecting their rights. You all have equal standing on this board. No one wields greater power than another, yet we only hear from the supervisor. Any one of you can introduce a resolution, engage the public, respond to a comment, or host a real town hall meeting where there is actual give and take. But please do so without the rehearsed self-congratulatory pronouncements and half-truths. That would be a welcome and refreshing change.
Thank you, Lisa. Next up, Roxanne, if you'd be kind enough to state your name for the record, please.
Roxanne Fisher, Barrytown, New York. Tonight, I address the supervisor's news flash, a reposting on his site 3 months later of the flawed public meeting of May 16th and its PowerPoint presentation on the proposed waterfront at the Red Hook Boat Club site. While While presented as an informative resource, the posting dangerously omits critical facts, misleading the public as much as any outright falsehood. The presentation claims the Red Hook Boat Club property is, quote, ideal location for a public park, citing existing facilities and Hudson River access. It asserts alignment with the LWRP, despite significant inconsistencies later cited by the Planning Board. It suggests no environmental impact or expansion of use, with no construction needed, despite contrary evidence, including necessary ADA compliance. No link given to written comments in the town record or acknowledgement of 916 speakers who voiced strong resistance to the eminent domain acquisition of the site. The supervisor ignores Judge Rose's August 15, 2025 ruling, which overturned major claims of Local Law Number 1 of 2025. It explicitly stated the zoning law exceeded the town's authority and that public parks are not permitted in the waterfront zoning district. The town has 30 days to appeal this ruling, yet this critical deadline and its implications were excluded from the supervisor's newsflash presentation. These omissions distort the public's understanding of the project's feasibility and legality. By selectively framing the narrative, the supervisor undermines transparency and dismisses the community's voice. I urge the town board to correct this misinformation, fully disclose Judge Rose's ruling, and acknowledge the public opposition in all future communications. To continue quoting Leon Botstein, president of Bard College, from his September 4th article, quote, "Autocracies thrive on lies, particularly those that easily lend themselves to elaboration as officially sanctioned myths, which then are used to define norms and laws. Supervisor McKeon, you have perpetuated the myth of a public-private partnership dialogue by insisting on acquisition as the starting point, foreclosing genuine collaboration or alternative approaches. Councilman Tester, as a Bard employee, you have hopefully read this article and must champion your president's call for truth and transparency. Let us reject lies, omissions, and myth, embracing truth and open dialogue in Red Hook's decision-making." Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Okay, next up, we have time for Nancy, for you, and for one more.
Yeah, mine's pretty short.
Okay,
My name is Nancy Rogers, and my house at 7659 North Broadway is sandwiched between Cookingham East and West. My focus is on the west side. Mr. McKeon, you stated that you visited the Red Hook Boat Club on Memorial Day, and there was no one there. I can say the same for most days in the entire Labor Day weekend on the Cookingham Trail. I can confirm that 99% of the time there are less than 10 people walking on that trail since it is visible out my kitchen window, my family room window, as well as my deck. Yet your need and want was to build this walkway and fencing using taxpayers' money without an opportunity to vote on the property use and expenditure. And I'm unsure why expensive fencing was required if the trails were already well delineated. What was once a working farm with beautiful apple blossoms and majestic cornfields is now a field of weeds. And soon those trails will surround solar panels. How will they be secured and maintained? There is a walking track around the ball field at the rec park and sidewalks throughout the village and to the rec park, but none up North Broadway beyond Park Avenue. Currently, the only parking for the Cookingham Trail is on Park Avenue, which impedes the sight lines for traffic on that heavily traveled street. There would be no sidewalks. How many of you town board members have taken a walk on the farm trail? Since it is literally in my backyard, I can walk through the tall weeds, hop the fence, be on the trail. I have walked the trail only twice. I much prefer walking through the streets of Red Hook, window shopping at our stores, and having a cup of coffee at Mighty Donuts. Pedestrians have to walk along busy Route 9 on a narrow shoulder to reach the trail entrance. Safety seems to have taken a backseat to building fences and bridges. Since the trails fall within the village boundaries, why were the parking and safety concerns not addressed jointly by the village and the town? So much for paying village taxes. The village and the town do not seem to be communicating on issues that impact both. I suggest the town board begin building truth and trust with its village and town residents. Now you are asking for the public's input on bridge designs, but none of the sketches contain estimated costs. This is important information for the public to know and consider. Please update the materials on the town website so residents can make informed decisions and not find out the price tag after the fact, which seems to be a theme with the town board. And here's a couple, of pictures of the field.
Thank you, Nancy.
Okay.
We have time for one more speaker. Public comment? Okay, I want to thank you all for taking time to speak tonight. I'll take a couple minutes to try to quickly answer a couple of those questions that were posed, and if anybody else would like to chime in as well. I want to first say to sort of the crux of the situation, I want to remind the public that we started out making the request and was told that we could have a sit-down to discuss a public-private partnership with the boat club on this property. This property, I should add, was recommended by the LWRP working group several years ago. The update to the LWRP is up at DOS for final approval, where they, not us, the town board, they recommended that we endeavor a public-private partnership with this particular property. And I've had boat club members and even a boat club director confirm that this is, in fact, a property to be doing this. If you are familiar with the boat launches up and down the Hudson River, as I am, as our consultant was, and I want to remind the public, our planning consultant is the individual who put together the Hudson River Access Plan for New York State DEC. He's quite, and is a boater, he's quite familiar with all the properties up and down the river, and I would encourage you to go see. There's some wonderful waterfront parks. Cooksaki has an amazing and much larger park than this will be. But there are some great places. But when you look at places that are essentially boat launches, you'll see that this property compares very favorably with those types of places. It has elements to it that are much better than, for example, the two properties up in Germantown. As far as the notion of starting at eminent domain, anything could be further from the truth. We have been insisting on having meetings with the boat club to discuss a public-private partnership for, it seems like 6 months, maybe more. I'm going to do something rather unusual, which is I'm going to read from attorney communications. It's not something we typically do, but it's something that I feel would be necessary in this case. Hopefully you are okay with that. There's an email from our attorney back in May 2nd saying, Bill, you had previously indicated to me that absent evidence that there was support from the whole board as opposed to just the supervisor for moving forward with a park project that there was no reason to meet. As you can see by their unanimous vote, there is such support for moving forward. Therefore, can we set up a meeting in the next few days to discuss alternatives to eminent domain? Can we meet in the next few days to discuss alternatives to eminent domain? Please let me know. William Hurst, attorney for the boat club. There will be no meeting. So this notion being put forth that the boat club is being subjected to eminent domain first without outreach. We've been outreaching for months and asking to have a meeting to discuss public-private partnership, and I will say we did have one meeting in the 6 months. That is not how we can put together a public-private partnership. And the demands that have been put upon us before we have meetings to come up with plans without having information of how a plan would work. The reason we were able to, on rather short notice, put together a really good plan with Bard College and local land trusts for that property, which by the way was a lot more than 20 acres, is because we met early, often, we listened, and we learned about what each other was looking for in a public-private partnership, and it worked. Now, the reason that the project hasn't moved forward with the Bard College property was explained to us by the Bard CFO at one of 3 neighborhood gatherings that I had arranged for in Barrytown to keep them updated. And it had more to do with their change of plans for that property, bringing over Simon's Rock and needing to focus. And if you've seen what they've done over there on that property, they have gone full bore to try and get ready for those students and to focus on that and their efforts. Whether that project will ever take place, I don't know. But I will tell you that it has nothing to do with the consensus of this board, and I will say that this board has worked fabulously well to protect that property, the hamlet of Barrytown. They met early and often and came to some decisive decision-making that I think everybody agrees was to the benefit of the community. The same is true for the Cookingham property, which when we are finished with the solar project, we will then put up for sale like we did on the east side for farming purposes. And Nancy, you will see a farmer there again, but not until we are finished with that aspect of the project. As far as the trails and the parking, it's not just fencing we did. We had to stabilize a lot of those farm paths. They were not suitable for trails. There is no need for additional parking. Once this bridge is constructed, people can park in either one of the recreational parking lots in addition to Park Avenue. There has never, to my knowledge, been a moment where there was insufficient parking for people to access through Abrams Park, which is where they are supposed to access the Cookingham trails. There were not 916 speakers, as once again misinformation coming out to the public. There were 76 speakers at the public hearing. There were a few hundred people there, many of them because they received a letter from my office inviting them to learn about the project, and also because Boat Club members reached out to their friends and family to come as well to advocate on their behalf. We have taken time to reach out to those who have not engaged in this particular project and this issue to try and gauge community sentiment one by one to get a better handle of how people feel about the project. And admittedly, there is a difference of opinion, and there are people who are supportive and people who are not supportive. As I mentioned earlier, in 2007, the same was true of the Community Preservation Act initiative, which was required to go to public referendum, which barely passed, but which has made a substantial difference in our community and provided the funding in order to put together that deal for Cookingham, for Barrytown, for all of the farms up and down West Curly Corners, just to name a few. So with that being said, I'm sure that I didn't answer all of your questions. As far as the lawsuit and Judge Rose's decision, the court essentially said that the two actions were in proximity chronologically and perhaps should have been considered together, but one action has nothing to do with the other action, And so as far as an appeal, this board, after going into attorney-client, did come to a determination, and we did authorize our firm to both re-argue and to appeal that decision. Okay, that's enough out of me. Let's get on to the agenda, and I hope I've at least answered some of your questions as best as I can. Anybody else before we get on? Anybody else? Okay. We have Professor Duker here. And the nice thing about having Professor Duker here is whenever we see him, we're always talking about water quality and protecting the water. Today we're talking about air and air quality, something near and dear to our hearts. So let me see if I can jump over to your slides. I'll be your slide person.
Do you want to put it into slideshow mode?
Oh, you're assuming I know how to do that.
Click the reload button in the middle, like top middle, reload.
Professor. This is a punishment for sending it to me at the last minute.
All right, so
Beautiful.
So my name's Eli Duker. I'm a professor at Bard College. Bard's on the agenda tonight. I'm sorry. I'm about to talk about air, so I thought we could, as a community, maybe really quickly just take a deep breath. Everybody inhale, exhale. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you a little bit about the air that you just breathed. All right, so as Robert said, I'm here to talk a little bit about the air quality work that we've been doing with the community. When I say the community, I mean the entire Hudson Valley at this point. We are doing a lot of work with students, faculty, staff, and community leaders throughout the Hudson Valley who are interested in finding out what our air quality is like and how to preserve it. I think it's interesting that in this area, you would have known me first as a water quality person, but in the Hudson Valley in general, if you ask someone what the water is like, they probably will know. But if you ask someone what the air is like, until recently, most of us did not know. And so this is a story that I'm going to share with you a little bit about how community observations and leadership around taking care of air and water really can put the Hudson Valley and us in particular in this area really ahead of the game in terms of understanding air quality as wildfire smoke starts really challenging our capacity to breathe and as our beautiful views, you remember these kind of views? Everybody? I haven't seen them very much recently, right? So trying to get back to these kind of beautiful views and ways to really enjoy where we live. So what we do is we put together air quality data with informed community members, that's us. We're all community, we all just breathe the same air. And I'll tell you right now, we all just breathe each other's air. That's happening. So we're an informed community here and we're working towards cleaner air. So, next slide.
You're assuming I know how to.
I'm assuming a lot.
Okay.
Okay, so the ways that we do that, so one of the things that's important to note is that this community, Red Hook and Kingston, are kind of the first communities to get involved in looking at air quality. Kingston was the first to ask Bard College through the Community Sciences Lab to put an air quality sensor on the rooftop of the community building there, the Annie Murphy Neighborhood Center, in 2020. And Red Hook Library actually was the very first library to join the Hudson Valley Library Air Quality Network, which was started by a Bard student back in 2021, I believe, that now has we're getting towards 30 libraries now. But Red Hook was the first, okay? And it's really important to know this because it has made a huge difference and it has actually really inspired the rest of the Hudson Valley to start putting up air quality sensors and understanding more about the air. So on the left, you'll see the very first community air quality report that was put together by a group called the Hudson Valley Air Quality Coalition, or HVAC, which cracks us all up. So HVAC took all the data that we have gotten on the rooftop of the Andy Murphy building about air quality in Kingston for the last 5 years and put it together into a really amazing community-centered report that lets the community know not just the kind of air that we're breathing, but also how to stay safe, and also how to understand the effects of wildfire smoke and other types of air quality issues on their health. You add that to creating the capacity for a community to actually see the data. So how many of you check your phones for air quality these days? Right? Okay. Yeah? Okay. How many folks know where those data are coming from on your phone? All right. So the unfortunate reality is that for most of the area across the United States, if you're looking at your weather app to see the air quality, you are not necessarily seeing the air quality where you are. You're seeing air quality of the closest sensor, and those sensors are usually far away. So we can do the next slide. So the Center for Environmental Sciences and Humanities, we work on water and air, clearly. Our job at BARD and in the community is to be a part of the community, to take the resources that we have in the academic realm and bringing that to the communities that we live in and the communities we're a part of, to try to deal with local issues, right? And so we're trying to address wicked environmental problems, like we need to breathe. How do we do that? Like, these are really tough environmental problems these days. We'll do the next. And so if we are trying to do that bridging, we basically have had to respond to community requests for understanding air quality and water quality where they live, not somewhere far away. Not relying on data from Albany, not relying on data from New York City, but knowing actually what's happening right where we are. What are we drinking? What are we breathing? And so on the right, you'll see the map there. The red dots show clusters of air quality sensors that we have up now, and also places where we do water quality work. The big blue symbols there are our regional air quality systems. And those are systems that are on the rooftops. So Andy Murphy building was the first, the one that's circled in yellow in Kingston. We now have one on the library at BARD. We have another rooftop sensor at Mount St. Mary's College in Newburgh. And our last sensor is in Poughkeepsie on the Adrian's Memorial Library. Those are giving us an idea of regional air quality. It's on a roof. What you might notice is that not everybody lives on the roof, though. We need not just rooftop air quality sensing, but we also need ground level. And that's what the Red Hook Library sensor and all the sensors in all the libraries across the Hudson Valley are providing. So if you could do the next slide. So what we're trying to do is actually really cutting edge. It's not really. But it's just now being noticed by scientists and just now being noticed by the rest of the academic realm that actually communities, those of us who live and breathe where we are actually the best stewards of our own water and air. And that we actually can be very good at observing change and figuring out what to do with those changes. So this is from Nature, talking about how citizen science can help to solve the global freshwater crisis. We've been doing work here in this community. Community leaders of Red Hook and BARD have been working together for over 50 years doing this stuff. So it's cutting edge, but it's really, we've always known this. So if you could go to the next slide. Same thing is true about, about thinking about environmental regulations and really working together as a community to figure out how is it that we want to be healthy? How do we want to make sure we have clean air and clean water? Not that.
Not that.
Not that. All right.
Whoa.
So in this, and the other part though that really is cutting edge is that we are set up, because we've been doing this work for so long, we are actually set up to deal with the fact that on the federal level we're seeing historic deregulation around water and air quality for the nation. And if we are in this very localized way able to do our own monitoring, do our own stewardship over water and air, we're in a much better place. And we are, which is good. This is all good news. So as I said, we've been doing this kind of work together since 1975. And it's really, we're really benefiting from it now. So if we go to the next slide, the air quality network that we've put together with community leaders, with Red Hook leading the way, with Kingston leading the way, is called the Hudson Valley Community Air Network. We went live with it over the summer. And over the summer, we toured up and down the Hudson Valley, talking to communities and community leaders about ways to be able to provide you with your own data, so that you're not just looking at your weather app to find out if it's safe to go outside. You're actually looking at an app that will tell you what it really is outside. Not a guess, not a prediction about what's outside, but actually what you're breathing outside. And so we see this as a really good way to start helping us as communities figure out how to be safe as our air changes. Next slide. So just to be sure everyone knows, I think probably everyone's on the same page. The reason why we care about air quality is that it is a fluid, just like water. It is a fluid, and it is the fluid that we interact with most out of all the fluids out there, most intimately. We breathe it in, we breathe it out, we breathe it in, we breathe it out. We change it by breathing out. We are trusting it by breathing it in. Okay, so that's number one. That's why we should monitor. The next reason is that over 8.1 million people die from air pollution each year. And air pollution is well known as the second most common cause of death, and it's second only to heart disease. And here's the problem. Heart disease is exacerbated by bad air quality. So I think we are just now starting to come to the understanding of just how important good air is. But the problem is we don't have local monitors. This is also a breaking news piece of literature that was just published by the sciences. But that's something that we've always known in this community. And so that's why in 2020, Kingston reached out and said, hey, if we're going to be making all these decisions that are around, how do we keep our community safe? How do we become a climate smart community? How do we do that if we don't even know what it was like to begin with? How do we know what we're saying we're doing is even working? So then they asked us to figure that out. So then that's why we put up the air quality sensor. So if you want to hit it a couple times, actually, another time. So we came up with this. This is a figure that shows you the concentration of air pollution over time. And this is from the rooftop of the Andy Murphy building in Kingston. Okay? It takes 5 years to actually be able to say anything about air quality. Lesson number one was when we put it up in January 2020, and I had no idea what a weird air quality year that would be, because COVID came in, and you can see right here the huge impact. COVID, us staying home, us not driving, us not doing things as normal, greatly reduced the air pollution in Kingston. And it's very obvious. And then over time, there's a lot to say here, but one of the things that's really important to note is that while we don't necessarily always exceed what is considered the EPA limit for air pollution on a daily basis, we are often exceeding the World Health Organization's understanding of what is healthy on a daily basis. And this is Kingston, New York. You can see 4th of July here, so it's obvious that this is not necessarily the fault of Canada. It's not necessarily the fault of California. We actually have this powerful influence on our own local air quality, and we can change it and make decisions that are good about it. One of the things to note, so we have these yellow little haze here. Those denote when there were wildfire smoke coming into our region. And you'll see that every time we do have an increase in particulate matter and air pollution. So it is affecting, wildfire smoke that is coming from other places is affecting us. But the thing about air quality is that it's additive. So if you start here with your own pollution that you're putting out as a community, and then an air pollution event comes in, a wildfire event comes in, something like this, if you add this to this, it actually is not such a bad air quality day. So it's really important to note that we can make decisions, even though we've got pollution coming at us from other places, we can make decisions as a community to reduce what we put out to be able to make those days not as harmful to us. Does that make sense? This is very exciting for us to be able to tell Kingston about it, but also this is what is in the future for Red Hook and other areas, because as long as we're able to get the air quality data and take a look at it, we can actually have conversations with each other. What are we going to decide in terms of what's allowed in our air? What are we going to do? Are we going to, on a day that we know the wildfire smoke is the highest, are we actually going to have our 4th of July big fireworks thing, or can we have it the next day or something like that? You know, there are tiny but very important decisions we can make. Okay, next slide. And I'm almost done, I promise. So the Hudson Valley Community Air Network basically pulls together the 4 rooftop sensors that I told you about. Bard, Kingston, Poughkeepsie, and Newburgh. And then it combines it with 20 different street-level library air quality sensors. So those libraries are all across the Hudson Valley. We are now being joined by the Ramapo library system, so that number will go up to 35. We have 12 neighborhood street-level air quality sensors across the Hudson Valley, and they're just folks that are interested in providing data for their neighbors that is near where they live. So one of the things that we have done is work to put all of these sensors up on a platform called the Just Air platform. You can get there by typing in justair.app in your phone, or you can use this little scannable thing. And basically what it does is it gives you access, real-time access, to the data that are being generated by those rooftop sensors. Not only that, but those sensors will text you when air quality is going bad. So you can tell the app which sensors you would like to hear from, and you will get proactive texts letting you know, alerting you so you can keep yourself and your family safe. What we're trying to do is increase the number of sensors that are on this platform. And what I was hoping to put forward is that the town of Red Hook sponsor a couple of these sensors. Right now, the Red Hook library sensor, it's running, it's publicly accessible through the Purple Air Network, but we'd really like to get it on this platform so that folks can proactively be alerted to that. And then the other suggestion I was going to make is that the town hall itself have its own air quality sensor. There are some sensors that now are made that turn different colors based on what the air quality is. And so you could literally be driving by the town hall and be like, oh, it's green, air is great, or oh, it's red, where are my kids, you know? So those are a couple of things that I was hoping to suggest to you that could be something possibly the town could do. If you go to the next slide. And it'd be really great then to be able to add Red Hook to the number of sensors that are going up. Right now we've got a contract coming online with Ulster County. They are jumping in and they're filling in the blank spots in Ulster County. They're putting up, I think, 20 sensors. And then we'll be putting it up on the Just Air app. And I think it would be great, though, if Red Hook got in there first. It hasn't happened yet. So if Red Hook was our first library, it would be really great if Red Hook would be our first ground level sensor on the network. All right, next slide. I think this is the last slide, and this is really just about what you can individually do. Anyone can have one of these sensors. We can help you manage it. We can help you install it. Also, there are monthly meetings with the Hudson Valley Air Quality Coalition. It's always a great place to learn what's going on across the Hudson Valley in terms of air quality, what people are concerned about, what issues are popping up, and how folks are using the data that they're seeing online. Also, the biggest thing that we can do, and I'm going to run after I say this, is stop burning wood. It's really sad. It is really sad. It is really sad. We live in the Hudson Valley. People love to burn their wood. But the problem is, wood smoke is actually worse than coal or oil or gas. So if you can't imagine taking coal and burning it in your backyard or in your house, you definitely do not want to be burning wood. It's sad. I love s'mores so much. But as a scientist, the data are devastatingly obvious. So as a valley, we do have some big decisions to make around how we're going to use the clean air that we have. But one of those is, if you can stand it, stop or greatly decrease burning wood, because it really makes a huge difference here in the valley. And then the last part is figuring out how to participate further, and if you have the chance, funding all sorts of scientific efforts, including helping other communities in Dutchess County or in your neighborhood or in the state, wherever, helping communities be able to have these kinds of sensors and have access to data, because it's really powerful. Anyway, I think that's it. I'm sorry, it's very long, but this is Question? Thoughts? Is everybody still breathing? It is safe, I promise you.
One quick question. Let's assume everybody took every recommendation that you gave. How much would those recommendations improve our quality of life and life expectancy? If an average man lives till 75 and a woman till 81, would making all of these changes increase life expectancy of some sort?
Yes, there is. If you would like to work with me to be able to calculate those the answer to that question, I think it's doable, but I have no idea. I think given what you saw with the map of air quality over time, it's clear that we can make a devastatingly huge difference if we all, as a community, make different decisions. I mean, that COVID slump there is amazing. So we can absolutely make a huge difference. And also, there are neighborhoods I don't know if it happens here, but I know in Kingston there are neighborhoods where there's just one person who has a chimney and likes to have wood fires, and that person is actually affecting its entire neighborhood. And it happens really frequently. And so if that person stopped, I don't know how to quantify the years of life that other people would basically. Sure.
Like, if you do get a sensor, and say you do want to burn wood, say you do one once a year, like, will you be like pinged as like that one in the neighborhood that's like, look at you?
I mean, all I'm gonna say is that the wood burning thing has taken me years to come to an okay place to be able to not cry while I'm saying it. Okay, so it is painful, but I have seen it can cause damage immediately. So you are making a decision, and it's like a cigarette. So it's secondhand smoke, right? So you decide how much secondhand smoke do you want to gift other people.
I raised my hand.
Yes.
A subject I studied, because we, as a community, banned outdoor wood boilers. If you're familiar with them, they are structures that look like maybe a doghouse size. They're about yay tall. You burn, they're incomplete burns. And so what happens is the smoke actually drifts at a very low level and doesn't rise because of the lack of heat of the fire. And so we banned these, gosh, almost 2 decades ago. And you'll find that states, I think it's Oregon, bans wood stoves for this reason. Their air quality was so poor. Wood smoke is 12 times, I learned this, Professor, 12 times as carcinogenic as cigarettes.
Yep.
12 times, and so you think just the volume difference between, and I used to smoke as a young man, I'm embarrassed to say, but, listen to your professor. He's right on the money there. It is something we romance here, to sit around a fire and think it's wonderful, but it does create cellular damage. We have how many water test sites here in the town?
Okay, so if you want to talk water, I'm ready for that.
No, I'm just saying, you're asking for a couple of air
Yeah,
spots
we
to
have,
test
right
the
now
air.
we have 12 13 sites along
Right.
the water. So yeah, no, it
So
would
if
be
we
nice
were
to
to have
that,
a
yeah.
couple
Ah, yeah.
in the town.
Yeah.
And the reason I bring that up is because you suggested both town hall and the library, as I like to say. Both of which are on a state highway. And here's the other thing.
Huh, yeah.
And I'm sorry that Nancy has left us because she lives on a state highway. The health outcomes, just to understand how important air pollution is, studies show that if you live on a main road, Albany right here is the longest road in New York State. It goes from Manhattan all the way up to Albany. It's a state highway, and so if you live on main roads, your health outcomes are greatly diminished than if you live on a more rural road or further away. And this is one of the challenges we have in the town of Red Hook, is we have 3 state highways. 2 of them meet right here at the center of the village. So we have those fine particulates that we're dealing with, which is why we as a community have been leading with the transition to electric vehicles. We have some, in fact, we were one of the first to get one for our building and zoning. We piloted the first in the state electric landscaping. So we had a whole demonstration project where we went out to all the neighborhoods, invited people in the neighborhoods to get their lawn mowed for free, right, Julia? And so they got a chance to experience what that's like, because single cycle engines are one of the worst for air quality. Now, you don't use it as much as your car perhaps, but what they emit is really terrible. I would love it if we could host, I mean, I think the idea of having one on town hall is a great idea, because people do look to see what's being posted at town hall. I wonder, would it be duplicative to have one at the library and town hall, since they're right up the road?
It would definitely be informative to watch the differences.
The difference between the two.
Yeah.
What about having some other, a little bit more remote locations?
Absolutely.
Like, would we have one on, what?
Red Park.
Yeah,
Red
Red
Park?
Park, yeah.
There's a good example.
Yeah.
Or those trails that, you know, something like that, to show the difference.
Ulster County has been putting them on running trails, actually, so that people can get a sense of what they're breathing when they run, so
Yeah.
that's not a bad idea. The limitation is electricity and Wi-Fi.
So they need both.
Those are the limitations. They're not, I mean, you can get past those
Okay.
with some money, but.
So Rec Park would work, because we have public Wi-Fi there, and we have
And
electricity.
flagpoles have become the
norm.
the exciting place
Yeah.
for folks to be putting these
Okay.
at libraries. It's worked really well.
Okay.
So.
Okay, good. You could tell I'm excited about this topic. I could go all day, I'm sorry.
We're moving on.
Very good, now I have to jump back to
We
the
need help with that?
agenda. No, I think I may have this as the original that I have.
There it is.
Okay, second community solar, that's the other thing we're doing, to try to limit emissions, obviously, and to save people money. I think I failed to mention, somebody spoke about taxes going up, and they had a piece of paper or whatever. We tell folks, if you'd like to see what's actually happening with your taxes, the tax collector can print out for you a tax bill from 2015 and a tax bill from 2025, and you can see how we've been saving you money over the last decade. We need a company to manage the customers, AKA the town residents. So we have an RFP. The way this project works, for those of you who are sitting in the audience, this is now the second one that we have. This community solar project is about a third the size of the first one that we did. It will accommodate up to 100 households worth of electricity. People will subscribe to the program. All of the energy will go into the grid. One of the things people don't necessarily realize immediately with solar, they hear about how it's temperamental, better in the summer, worse in the winter, or the rainy seasons, but solar really helps out the stability of the grid. If you think of the grid being like the veins in your body, you have bigger ones that flow better and you have thinner ones that don't flow so well. Properly placed with the proper equipment, solar helps the stability of the grid. So right now we have a resolution to go out and to solicit bids from firms that manage customers to acquire them, which shouldn't be too hard because the first one was a very successful project, and to manage the billing and the list with the utility, which is Central Hudson in our case. Folks, did you have any questions about either the timeline? I highlighted, or the attorney did a couple things to, just to note that the bid will be expressed in cents per kilowatt hour. We're giving them a certain amount of time to pose questions. What's different now is how this gets placed on the bill. And obviously for the folks at home, the people in the audience, what's different now, at least temporarily, unfortunately, is with the Inflation Reduction Act, we are able to build this and own this from day one. We were not able to do that until the Inflation Reduction Act was passed in Congress. But we will get a direct rebate from the federal government the spring after we file a form of completion of this project. So we will get federal support and state support for the project. Any questions about the number of days? They will have about 60 days, we're telling them, I've highlighted in the yellow, to get up to 100% of subscription rate. We want to get it all subscribed by December. When we flip the switch, we can start billing out for January production.
Seems all pretty straightforward.
Okay. I think Christine is ready. Anyone else have any questions? No? No? Okay. Yeah. Could you let us know what resolution number we're up to, please?
60.
60. Dated September 9th, authorizing issuance of a request for a proposal for Cookingham Solar Community Distributed Generation, aka CDG, subscriber services for a 749.1 kilowatt DC system. And who would like to move that?
So moved.
Oh.
We both would. Second.
Okay. All right, very good. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is a
We should
continu-
vote.
Did we all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, very good. Sometimes we move along a little too quickly, we forget the. Okay, what do we have here? So there is a camp that's been in operation for 70 some odd, maybe more, almost 100 years. Camp Rising Sun on the southern border of the town. We had a presentation from Winnicke Land Trust at our last meeting. I asked them to update the map showing the trail loop coming back here for those of you on the screen. Thank you for adding to the screen. The entrance will be off of Oriole Mills Road. This is the camp infrastructure here. This is a state water protection quality project. So we are accomplishing several things at the same time. We're going to have more walking trails here. The camp will be using these trails during a portion of the summer, and there will be a parking area here, ADA accessible parking area here. And so the idea is that we want to keep this thing moving. They'll get the appraisal updated. They're required through the state program to have an update to the appraisal within 90 days of the closing. So we'll have the exact numbers for the project, but we're using for now an up to $390,000 figure for the town's portion of it, for both the public access and the conservation easement associated with it. And so what I would ask you tonight is if you would consider supporting sending this to the Community Preservation Advisory Board for their advice and recommendation, and that will create an opportunity to meet with Winnicke and have a presentation made to them.
And then assuming if they were favorable, it would come back to the board and
It
set
comes
public
back
hearing?
to us either way.
Okay.
Generally, they have always recommended, but they're just an advisory board. We can still take action. I can't imagine we wouldn't want to support this project, but you know, crazier things have happened in 2025, right? This is a wonderful trail project adjoining what was the Hudson Valley Sheep Company, this beautiful farm here. Okay, any questions? I think just a motion to
Send it to the committee.
to approve sending it to the Community Preservation Advisory Board to review the project and propose funding not to exceed $390,000. And who, Christine Kane, would like to make that?
So moved.
How did I know you'd like to do that? Good guess on my part. Is there a second on that?
Second.
Okay. Thank you very much, Bill. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you very much. Walking. This is, you know, Eli, you brought this up. I always marvel every time I go across the river and I see these trails and paths and they're directly next to the thruway, and I think to myself, my God, I don't think they should be running next to it because they're inhaling all that stuff. But that's a lot of times where the paths are created, right? You can only work with what you have. That's why some of these other trails, Cookingham's a good example, gets you far enough off and the air quality should be better. Okay. Moving right along. I like the application with the EAF. Review. Next up, engineering study. I think you heard me update you as to what we're trying to accomplish here, which is
Okay, just for there. One more.
do a townwide study. The New York State DOT approves all speed reduction requests. We've had success with some of our residential subdivisions. We've had success working with the state and the Empire State Trail to lower the speed limits on River Road. Let's see, we have some Bard College students. Bard College is on River Road, so the extent of River Road down to the bridge approach was part of an Empire State Trail project. We approved some traffic calming measures, speed tables, speed humps, which enabled a reduction in the speed limit on River Road. 9G, we were able to get a reduction in the speed limit on 9G as part of a response to an upper Route 9G corridor study. There was a very tragic accident where a drunk driver killed 2 Bard students, as you may or may not know, just north of the entrance to Tivoli on Route 9G and 78. And there has just, as of this week, actually been instituted finally a full stoplight in both directions there on 9G and County Route 78, which was part of the recommendations, many recommendations issued from the study. In local government, speeding is probably the #1 issue we get phone calls for here, and so there's enforcement that's critical. but certainly lowering the speed limits to a realistic level or to a safe level is what's necessary. For some reason, the state thinks that they need to control the speeds on local roads. We don't understand why, because it's really not affecting commerce. This is a task order. We have a firm that we have hired years ago for just this type of work. They have particular expertise in transportation and traffic safety issues. And so we were hoping that DOT, we had heard that they were looking at possibly changing their guidelines to give us perhaps some more authority. Didn't come to pass, and we're now on year 3 of patiently waiting. I think we're ready, aren't we, folks, to have this study done so that we can get the proper speed limits on our roads.
It's also important to note that at one time, probably 40 years ago, the speed limit for the town was 30.
It was 30.
And they raised it, and I don't know that it was done in bad faith, because at that time we didn't have as much traffic and the population. But now with Waze and Google Maps and Apple Maps and everything else, many of the roads have become cut-throughs and pass-throughs for traffic to avoid traffic in the village. And some of these roads, I mean, I saw a tractor-trailer stuck at an intersection, couldn't go forward, couldn't go backwards. And when I asked him, he was right on the corner of Crestwood and Feller Newmark, walking my dog. He said, oh, Google Maps took me this way off of 199. So I think it would be good to get the speed limit for the town reverted back to 30 so that all of these electronic systems that guide people would know not to guide them to certain of these roads, because they use algorithms to determine how quickly it will get you from one place to the next. And if you're not from here, and many people come off the Taconic trying to come to Bard, they cut, it's true, they cut through various roads, and some of the roads are really windy. And as someone who lives on one of those windy roads, I can say that it's hard to even maintain the speed that is the limit. So it would be better for everybody if we could somehow at least get it back to.
Well, let's see what the study produces. It may say that certain roads need to go down even further than 30 to 25 to come up with recommendations.
And so we get a report out of this study, and then what is the process from there? What does that enable? I mean, up until now, we've been doing neighborhood by neighborhood studies, right? Does this take the place of that, and it would then be all we need to go to the state, or is there additional process?
No, so this will produce the information that is a requirement for the state. Now, we went back and forth years ago about this. Do we absolutely have to do this? No. We don't have to do the engineering study. Will we have success if we don't do this study? No, we will not. By supplying this data, and what they will do is that they will go around the town and they will lay down the tubes and they will study the prevailing speed, the 85th percentile and the 50th percentile as well, and they will compile all that data and produce a report for the state. The state DOT, which is backed up, unfortunately, will take a look at this and then hopefully give us the approval that we need. So we're going to need to do this in order to accomplish what our constituents want from us on this issue.
And so the report that we expect to get will identify, and it says something about 9 locations plus 12, pre-existing sets of data. They will have sort of a summary of recommendations of changes.
That's right.
Throughout the whole town. Like, they expect it to be relatively comprehensive.
They will, because not every road should have the same speed limit.
Right.
You have connector roads, you have rural roads, you have, geometric design challenges, sharp curves, those types of situations. So they'll analyze the road for its characteristics and its usage, and obviously the data, and then they'll make a recommendation for speed limits in the town. But they will have a recommendation for a town-wide level, so hopefully that will be something other than 35. And Bill is correct, in 1985, the town council at that time recommended to raise from 30 to 35 the speed limit.
And they mentioned a kickoff meeting, are they intending to coordinate with the highway department on this?
They will do with my office and with the highway department, yeah, they'll invite both, yeah.
Thank you.
So I do see something in the task order that needs to be addressed, though.
Okay,
Notwithstanding the fact that the town does not have its own police department, it's the village police department.
yeah,
The New York State Police and the Dutchess County Sheriff's Office also respond and keep their own records for crashes, and the way our 911 system works, sometimes it's one, the other, all three, and the village police department is not a three-shift police department, and so if there's a crash at 4 o'clock in the morning,
yeah,
it may be the state police. So in order to get the crash data, they're
Yeah.
gonna have to go to 3 sources, not just one.
yeah, all fine,
But we should add that.
Yeah, but it needs to be the task force.
yeah, okay. Bill, you wanna make that change, and we'll send it over to Frank Manning? Okay, did we have a resolution prepared for this, or no, we're just gonna do this by motion? Okay. Task order number 10, Creighton Manning. In accordance with the agreement, Exhibit B, scope of services. I want to move this one because this has been something,
With the addition of,
project with, as
Dutchess County Sheriff and
modified,
New York State
as
Police.
modified by the Deputy Supervisor Hamel. I so move.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anything else you wanna add? No? Okay. Slow it down. Slow it down, people. Okay. Food scraps, one of the things that we've been doing for years is we've been accepting food scraps at our recycling center, and many other things. And so it's going well. The thinking is we wanna go from 6 bins to 8 bins, and I think, Bill, you reported just recently that it was full and they had to turn away a couple people.
2 Saturdays ago.
So Ozone was going to transfer over this business to the main employee that's been doing it. Turns out, not ready yet for that. We thought you needed to be a licensed hauler, that was the case with the county, it's no longer the case with the county. They no longer wanna regulate this, which is good, I think it kinda makes sense, although, I'm sure everybody wants to make sure that, these materials are being processed, properly and effectively. At the moment, Ozone's gonna continue, the contract that we have, and then maybe in 2026, we can look at the transfer of, business.
So Ozone's willing to do this.
Ozone is willing to keep the contract, but I would like to entertain, increasing it from 6 to 8, because I think the dollar figure, right, Jacob, was something
Yeah.
nominal, right?
Yeah, it was not a significant
It was
increase for the amount
$80
that we
or
do.
something for
Yeah.
a month for 2 extra bin pickups. For the folks at home, if you wanna join the terribly named Hard Scrappers, or whatever they came up with, you'll get a bin, you bring it to the recycling center. Later on in the year, there will be compost delivered there that you can take back to your farm. Okay, would we do a motion to increase the level of services to 8 bins and modify the service agreement?
Based on the pricing that was quoted at the last meeting.
Based upon the pricing that was quoted at the last meeting, who would like to make that motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second?
Give it to Julie.
Just barely.
Right, just barely. Okay. Julie, thank you very much. And as I said to you before, this is no longer applicable. You don't need to be a licensed hauler. Okay. Setting the public hearing on
Do we vote?
Well, we didn't vote.
details. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Trying to move it along, I apologize. Okay. Establishing a date for a public hearing regarding water rates and charges for water district number 1. We have some of the lowest rates, we being the water district. I think the comptroller reported that $1,100 a year for water was about the average for a user in New York. I think the water district is what, half of that?
I was gonna say, a little,
It's
just a
that.
touch above half.
Right. That's the good news. The bad news is now comes a capital project and they've set aside some money, so that's all good, but not enough to do the whole project. So this is the annual 5% that they've been asking for the last several years. They'll be back in 2026, early 2026, figuring out what they need to do in order to pay for that water storage tank, which will involve Bard College as well, because it is the backup to the college, and oftentimes the college will need to go offline for one reason or another, and the town is in the position to provide water, which of course, Jonathan, as you know, means Bard will be asked to contribute to that capital project. You're probably happy to hear about that. Not that, what's that? You left your checkbook at home? Not that the college hasn't been spending a lot of money to do a lot of projects, but alas, fair is fair. Okay, so our public hearing, our next meeting is the 24th. I think we need to do that because then the quarterly goes out for the October 1. They have the newsletter, they can let people know. We have 487 households who are on a water district. For the folks who are here studying local government, this is what's called a special benefit assessment district. Only the people who live in the area that's serviced by Central Water pay for the costs associated with it. The rest who live out in the boondocks, as we like to refer to them, don't. Okay, so it's to schedule for the 24th at 7:35, let's say, shall we? And this is resolution 61.
Yes.
It's an increase. Water liaison, you move it,
I
you move
will,
it.
I will have to move it.
Okay, very good. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jacob. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. Thank you very much.
And just so the public knows, tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, the water board will be meeting to discuss those next steps regarding.
Important discussions, also helpful if you're suffering from insomnia. But actually a really talented board, I mean,
You're dismissed.
incredibly talented.
Thank you all.
I feel like there's a mass exodus going.
We've had enough.
Thanks for coming. I hope you're excited enough to someday take over for us.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Okay, we're on the resolution number 62, approving amended town of Reddish purchasing and procurement policy. So before we go ahead and entertain.
Discussion on the
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, that's a quick one.
That's boring.
That's a quick one. As I stated earlier, the deadline is Friday. It's just a resubmission. And this year you can get up to 40% of your total project cost, which is $6,576,000. 40% would be $2,600,000 and some odd $1,000.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. We need to do it. Important things to fund. Don't want to spend any more money on these lawsuits.
Do you need a motion?
Motion?
Who wants to make it?
So moved.
I'll second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very much. Okay. Purchasing, so, updated draft of the limits. You know, we were going out and getting 3 quotes for everything that we buy that was over $2,000. I mean, you can't buy anything for one of our trucks for, right? I mean, we're spending too much time on these things. So that's been updated, the amount. So Jacob, I printed out on the green purchasing community.
Please back up for a minute, Bo.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering the, changing from 2,000 to 5,000.
That's correct.
Is that like a comptroller recommendation, or where did we come up with that $5,000?
It's a fairly common amount that's utilized, but it's something that really takes into account inflation. We've had this threshold now for a gazillion years.
No, I just was wondering if we
Yeah.
wanted to go to 7,500, given inflation.
Does the state comptroller have a recommendation?
The state comptroller does have, I wouldn't call them recommendations, right, Chris? What would you call them? I know you're there somewhere.
They absolutely have recommendations for process. I do not believe they have recommendations for specific numbers below the threshold, but they require you as a board to determine what those thresholds should be and to follow them.
Right. I mean, I'm fine to go to 7,500 if you want to make that modification. I mean, it's just oftentimes, I mean, you get a mower, so now we gotta go out and get 3 quotes on a mower. And the difference between going to get that same mower at
And
this
those mowers
location
are
for the.
expensive.
What's that?
And those mowers are
And that's,
expensive, they
right,
cost
you
more than
can't get a mower,
$5,000.
you can't get a mower for $5,000, so well, Christine, you know, you convinced me in record time, I don't know how the others feel.
Does that affect the other ranges? Because if we do 7,500, then it's 75
Yeah, then I
to
think we should
99,
push those
bump
up.
those up.
Oh, it's proportional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, look, we can make things simple. We can just get rid of this section. We can go up to if you wanted to now, and I don't wanna jump over your number, but if you wanted to go, we can get rid of this section, over 5,000 to 999. If you wanna go up to 999 at the discretion of the department head and within budgetary limits, then we can go right to 10 to 1999.
Because
and have
budgetary limits
two-
have to come
two
back to us,
thresholds.
have to come to us
Right.
anyway, right? So,
I mean, I think there's some value in encouraging department heads to shop around a little bit once you get into that range.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think you need a formal RFP process.
Right.
But just
So when
encouraging
you
some
say that range,
exploration.
which range are you
Well,
talking
I don't
about?
to
know,
999.
5 to 999 or 75, like, I don't have a strong opinion about that, but I think that keeping this category number 2 has some value.
Okay. Where do you wanna keep it? You wanna keep it at 10 to 15?
I'm not gonna get in a fight with Christine.
Okay.
I'm fine with going up to 999 and then just taking out that section and then, you know, going
It
to.
turns out Christine
She
is willing to
wants
get
to
into
fight
a
with me.
fight with you.
I mean, I just think so the written, like this category 3, 10 to 19,999, written RFP quotes or form of bids, like that feels like it's substantially more formal to me. And I think that having an intermediate option that
Yeah.
encourages a little
Well,
exploration.
that's not again, that is
You mean this
also
one?
at the discretion of the department heads or town supervisor, at least 3 vendors shall be solicited. So quotes, I mean, it's reasonable to get quotes for 10 to 20, I mean, I think that's reasonable.
Yeah.
Written RFPs, boy, I tell you, you know, what you spend, especially
Yeah,
when
right.
you need to engage an engineer to write the RFP for you, or other consultants. it really adds to the cost, which defeats the purpose of
So it
having this.
was the only change from 2 to 5,
No,
and then everything else was proportional?
yeah, it was proportional, yeah. And we had 10,000, we had over 20,000, formal public bids, but no, we had a 10,000 threshold bid change there.
So Christine, you're just proposing basically to sort of collapse category 2 and category 3 in this section, which we're thinking sort of,
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Well, that's 2 yeses, what do you guys think?
Seems like it's easier to administer.
You could make
Fewer
it move a little
categories.
faster when you want
Oh,
things done.
God. Yeah, you know, when we had a separate
Well, when you get up
purchasing-
into those prices, I mean, you're looking at things in the highway department, you're looking
Yeah.
at things from the recreation
department.
department.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's not office supplies and, you know,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So, you know, you need them when you need them, and, you know, it's within budgetary limits
Yeah.
anyway, so.
Well, I think even the, you know, this is a good example. So we were thinking, do we need to go and get quotes now from the food waste haulers because we're going from 6 to 8? Do we need to go out and get another, you know, get these quotes and all that? And it's like, well, this is ridiculous. This is like $80 more a month
well,
to
it's
get
also-
33% more capacity.
You know, think about the people on the other end of that, right?
Right.
They're going through the effort and
Wasting
time
their
to put in
time.
those RFPs.
For something tiny.
Right.
But
So are we
So what are
voting
we
on
doing?
this tonight? Do we need to actually wordsmith it, or are we gonna see it again?
Well, I mean, you know, well, a couple things.
What about the bridge
First of all,
department?
let's deal with the numbers right now if we could. How are we leaning? I'm sorry, I'm with Christine on
That's fine.
this. Because I end up spending a lot of time on this
I
and
appreciate that.
it's just not always time well spent, quite frankly.
Understood.
Well, how much, when we replaced that big flat screen TV, how much did that cost?
No, that wasn't that much. That was, no, this is,
That was on sale.
the TV is, you picked the one thing that hasn't gone up a lot in the last
Oh,
20 years since
it's
we've
a
had this
giant.
threshold. It is giant.
It's probably like $500.
It was, I think it was.
Well, I know, for instance,
It was
John
almost seven.
Freeman had written in one of his reports
The
that they
bases.
wanted to get a piece of equipment.
Yeah.
The motor
And
thing, right?
it was slightly cheaper somewhere else, but who didn't service, wouldn't pick it
Right.
up and deliver for service because they were so far away. So I just think that if we go up, then it provides flexibility for those kinds of things.
So what would
Yeah.
you propose, like starting at 0, you've got a category that's up to something at the discretion of the department, right?
So yeah, up to 9999 would be.
And
Okay.
then we would
and
have
then
over
the next one would be
10,000
Over
to.
10,000 to 1999 is written RFP.
Okay.
And over 20 is formal public bids, unless people want to move those up.
No, no,
Yeah.
20 needs to stay.
That's state.
Okay.
That's stay.
But I think the language within budgetary limits, I mean, I think that's sort of the
Yeah, that's
controlling, internal control, because, you know, every department has a certain budget.
Right.
And if they think they're gonna need more money and we have to do an adjustment, it's gonna come to us anyway.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
think that, you know, provides some comfort for it.
I agree with that.
Christine, very good. As modified now, more modifications from that side of the
Yeah.
desk.
Yeah, so I sent an email to everybody with information about the Green Purchasing Community Program through Green New York. Comes to the Office of General Services, I believe. So on the state level, there is this program that includes a couple of things. One of them is maintaining standards for green products, sort of a catalog that you can search to see things that are competitive with products we might be purchasing as a municipality. They say that it's a simple to administer green purchasing program. I know that I first started this in a CAC meeting earlier this year and planned to bring it up whenever we talked about the procurement policy, so now's the time to do that. In that meeting, there was support from that group as something that would be good for having more environmentally conscious purchasing from the municipality. Part of this program includes cost effectiveness, so things that are within a certain percentage of non-green options. If you look at the catalog, we put it up in the meeting, it's like pretty easily to search for paper, if you're
Yeah.
looking for
Yeah.
supplies, like they have a lot of things that municipalities would be looking to purchase. So I think it would be pretty straightforward in that sense. It's not a decision that we have to evaluate all these products on our own. It comes
Right.
from this thing that's been vetted by the state. In addition to being more sustainable, it also gives us points for our climate smart community
Right.
recertification. I know there's interest in doing the things that we can to, be successful in that endeavor, but I think it's also the principle of it is a good thing to be doing, to be buying more environmentally conscious
Right.
products where they're available and they're not
Right.
an extreme cost premium above
Right.
what we'd be purchasing otherwise. So it's straightforward, there's language here that I think we've seen, where this goes into the policy, how it fits into the policy. So I don't know if there's any thoughts. I know, Bill, you had a question about reaching out to other municipalities for, what their experience has been.
Yeah, benchmark.
So I went on the website to see what other municipalities were doing this, and it seems like there's a range, right? So there's counties, there's towns, there's villages, the city of Kingston is one, town of New Paltz is another, Ulster County, and there's a few smaller municipalities like Hastings on Hudson, Washington. It's not an extremely long list, but there are a number of counties and cities and towns that are doing this. So what that says to me, without actually reaching out to them, is that it works on these different levels. It's like fairly straightforward for them to administer, but we could reach out to
The only reason I ask is
Yeah.
that, the larger the municipality, the larger their staff and the number of people to
Totally.
administer a program. And having, spent 25 years in the federal government and 4 in a very senior position in the state, I do know that sometimes it's good to, these pronouncements come, but then there's people who actually physically have to do it. And sometimes it's easier and sometimes it's not.
Totally.
And I think I wouldn't want to tie our hands on something until we get some input on what are the administrative burdens, if there are any.
Oh, yeah, I
with
want to
respect
chime in when you're finished.
with respect to administering this program.
Yeah. It's not a burden, it's an option. And so what this allows you, it allows you to go up to 10% higher on something that is better for the environment or more sustainable. And I actually found it easier. It's a little bit like going on the state's website.
Like
OGS.
like a state contract.
So,
Yeah.
for example, I linked on, and I didn't realize there are brake pads listed
There's
there.
a lot of stuff.
Right,
on
there's a
there.
lot of stuff, and I'm like, well, this is great. There are things that have already been pre-vetted for us that we know have an environmental benefit that are within the guide rails. I don't think it's a burden, I think it's an assist, quite frankly, and it's consistent with our ethos, which is we wanna buy things that are
Good for the environment.
good for
And
the
and they're also
environment.
not auditing this too, right? So it's something that we say we're going to do and we uphold ourselves rather than them coming in
Yeah.
and saying, oh, you didn't do this or you didn't do
Right.
that.
It's
something
just an
we're
option.
doing as a policy.
So if we
decision.
find something that's 4% more expensive but better for the environment, we could choose that.
Yeah, I just wanted, there are mechanics involved.
Yeah. And what's the
we
day-to-day
have
for the people
We
making
have
this?
basically one person who does this.
Well, I know,
No,
but
I
I
think it's a fair
actually
thing.
liked it. I thought it was gonna make my life easier because you just clicked on and I was like, wow, there's a whole category called brake pads. So I wanna send that stuff, or maybe you would wanna send it over to the
Yeah, I think
highway
if we
superintendent
do
to
this,
see.
it would be a really good thing. Just make sure everybody who's making those purchasing decisions knows
That-
Exactly.
this is available and it's something that we can do all together to do more environmentally friendly.
I mean,
Which
so-
brings me to, go ahead.
Well, no, I was just gonna ask, I think that because it is so voluntary, I mean, conceptually, Bill, I agree with you. I would really kind of like to get some testimonials of how this has worked in other communities, whether on one end of the spectrum it has been sort of burdensome and bureaucratic, or on the other end of the spectrum, it doesn't make a lot of difference because the people who are doing the purchasing aren't fully on board and really making any changes to their
Right,
behavior.
right.
And so I guess then my question is, if we go forward with it, how do we roll it out in a way that gets enthusiastic compliance from everybody who's doing the purchasing, everybody from, our bookkeeper to our rec department to our highway, there's
Well-
really quite a lot of people probably who are making some degree of purchases.
Yeah, I find myself in the rare position of correcting you,
All
Julie,
right,
which
go
I
for it.
almost never have done. I wouldn't use the term compliance because it is optional. I think you wanna have participation.
But if we're setting the policy, they're complying with our
I
policy.
was gonna say, we're setting a
It's not complying
standard.
with the
It's setting a
program so
standard,
much as
yeah.
complying with what we're saying.
Right, but I mean.
Robert, can I just
Sure.
add something here?
Yeah,
We looked at this a little bit. So two things. Number
Yeah.
one, this only applies when you're talking about your purchases below 20,000.
Yes,
Because
of
that's
course.
where section one,
Yeah.
I just want to make
Yeah,
sure
yeah,
everybody
yeah.
understands it.
Yeah, we know that, yeah.
20,000, so it's not going to apply to those,
yeah, the
you know,
big-
probably
big-
more complex purchases.
Right.
Second, you would have to have some kind of process because it is not optional in the sense that it says where the municipality is procuring, then the municipality shall follow the green procurement spec to the maximum extent practicable where the cost is reasonably competitive. So when they're picking items, they should check each time to see if there
Yes.
is a, you know, green alternative.
Yes.
And so it's not necessarily onerous, but it is a process that needs to be incorporated.
It was pretty easy, I linked right on, it's actually easier than going on a OGS and seeing what's on the state contract, which
People
I
have been doing
find
things for a very
confusing.
long time, have habits.
Oh,
Oh, well, and what if, like hypothetically, I mean, and I'm philosophically, I'm very much in support of this, right? But like, what if hypothetically, you know, you've got the paper towels that we normally order,
yeah.
and then there's some other recommended paper towels,
Yeah.
and we purchase them, and it turns out that they're lousy for some reason, they shred, or people don't like them, then do we have to,
Yeah,
like, what, then what happens?
Then we don't
right?
order them again.
Okay, so, but then what, with Chris, like, what box do you have to check to explain why you're no longer doing that?
Well, in the case of, I believe that you have, even though the best value, you know, the statutory best value process for the, is for the over 20s, in your 104 adopted policy language, I believe that you already have language in there that talks about, in your quote section, should reflect a process that will generate the best value at the lowest cost. And I think if you're gonna adopt a green purchasing procedure, you're gonna incorporate, you know, taking into account, you know, reviewing, you're gonna be looking at and incorporating that language if the, you know, green purchases is, you know, better or as good, you know, at a price that's at least, you know, 10%, you know, 10%
No more
premium
than
or not more
10%.
than a 10% premium, then you would make that purchase. But you still have to evaluate the value, right? So if it's a crummy product, you're gonna determine that it isn't comparable, right?
Yeah.
It's gonna have to meet some minimum standards.
But are we gonna
And I think
require,
you're gonna, pardon me?
are we gonna require our purchasing agent to write some kind of sole source or some kind of justification that they chose? I mean, this is where I'm going with respect to the
No,
administrative.
no, I don't think,
Well,
no, it's
I
not
mean-
like it would, each purchase, you have to, you know, detail why you didn't go green with something, that's not, this is really like a policy statement, quite frankly, it's just not, it's not an auditable thing coming out of the comptroller's office,
Well, we
really.
could just
Take a
add,
look at it.
a box, you know, to the form that says, did you compare this, you know, is this a green product? Yes, no, if not, did you review it? Yes,
Yeah.
right, so.
And I think that if this becomes something that feels like a burden, we could always remove it from our policy in the future. I don't think we're locked into it long term if it's something that feels genuinely bad for everybody.
Yeah.
But I think that as a principle, it's a very good approach, and I think that
Yeah.
I would expect it to be minimally burdensome.
Yeah. I mean, I'm totally willing, as somebody who's spent more time on this procurement than
The rest of
I
us.
I mean, I would happily engage in trying to find the environmentally friendly options available. I found this very easy to go on there. I was really curious on some of the things that were listed there. There are no brake pads made that much of a difference, but it could be a learning experience also for us as well. Anyway,
So what's
what do we think?
the-
What do we think?
So do we need to do this?
I would
tonight?
incorporate this language into the modifications you suggested, but only if there's consensus to do so. If you all wanna hold off, Julia, if you wanna go get some coal or some wood and.
No, I think I'm fine with it. I mean, I feel a little I would be more confident if I had a little more information. Like we had
Okay.
talked to a couple of other municipalities and the folks who do purchasing for us. And
Okay.
if Chris showed her cards a little more about how much burden she thinks this might or might not add to implement fully. But you could convince me that we should go ahead and move forward and you know, do it by trial and error and see what happens.
If we went, like if we went to the town of Hastings on Hudson or another,
Yeah.
they could also give us a go-by and save us a lot of work in writing our own, you know,
Well, policies.
why reinvent?
I
have
model
this
language.
Oh,
It's a
that,
sample
that's a
language
model.
right here.
Yeah, it's just.
Well, no, how it's incorporated into their
The
procurement
pro- the process.
policy.
Yeah.
That, and I guess my point
But
is,
there's
you
no
know,
reason we can't do that after,
Incorporate it.
if we
Yeah,
adopt it
that's more
tonight,
like
then we
the,
call
like,
them and say, hey,
movement,
got any tips
right.
for us on how you implement this?
How about subject to?
we just make a few more calls and vote on it next meeting.
Is there urgency to the?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I'm
policy?
pleased.
Okay, we're gonna do a modified
Robert wants
draft.
to use this database. Gonna be making purchases in the next few
Okay,
weeks.
so we'll modify the draft with the model language in it.
We're gonna modify the draft with the model
Yeah.
language. I'll call over to Julie Noble, not Mayor Steve Noble, because Julie will tell me how it's going over there, although, well, I'm sure she's responsible for a lot of procurement, but maybe not. Okay,
I think doing that also means that the public will see the changes incorporated before we adopt the policies.
that's good, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, makes sense, and hopefully dollars. Reorg, a couple recommendations for the ethics board. We had a couple people move. Got some recommendations. Jacob, you're the liaison to the ethics board.
Yes, so we've had materials from two individuals who've expressed interest in joining the ethics board for a little bit, and Brenda Elsey, who's the chair of the ethics board, met with both of them to interview them and gauge their qualifications and interest in joining. The first of them, Laura Roberts, attended a meeting of the ethics board a few months ago to express interest and just sort of get a sense for what it would be like. Has a recommendation from Brenda. We have our materials here. In addition, Kevin Kavanaugh also expressed interest, similar high recommendation from Brenda. So I don't know if there's any discussion to be had on this, but otherwise I would move to appoint them to the ethics board. I don't have the reorg list in front of me to know what the term and years are. But after reviewing their materials, I think they're well qualified for these positions on the ethics board. I would support appointing them.
If you wanna hang on 1 second, I can look up Deanna's latest, at least the latest one we have that I have. If you wanna wait 1 second, I will do that, all right?
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Because it's important to, you know,
Stagger.
have the.
Point them into the right seats,
Yes.
So we have Gail C. Is
If you
Gail,
wanna talk about something else for a second, I'll give it to you in just a minute.
Bridge washing and deck sealing.
Bridge washing and deck sealing, right?
yeah, so let's talk about the bridge washing and deck. So LWRP referral to the planning board. The planning board chair took a look at this communication from DOT and came to the conclusion that this is really de minimis, this is routine maintenance, this is not something the planning board needs to review. It's how do you clean the bridge that's over 9G, because 9G is the, in many cases, the eastern border of the LWRP zone. So just to report that out, that we received this communication from DOS and Department of Transportation, bridge washing and deck sealing in various municipalities up and down Columbia, Dutchess, Putnam, Westchester, Rockland, Orange, and Ulster counties. All right,
I have information when you're ready.
we are ready for you, Chris, thank you.
Okay, so according to, this is as of February, but I'm assuming it hasn't changed.
Not that committee, no.
Did you appoint anybody else this year? I don't recall.
Yes, we reappointed Susan,
Yes,
The chair, right?
no,
Susan.
Susan Simon.
Susan Simon.
Oh, okay, she's not on this list.
Oh, God.
Okay,
So we
That's-
need to
that's no
understand
list.
which one you would have appointed her to, because there was a vacancy that expired in 2024.
That would have been the one.
Okay,
No.
Deanna's going to
Deanna's
get her
going to
list.
get the
yeah,
list.
That would have
So-
been the one.
Okay.
yeah.
And then you had, so you've got Brenda whose term ends in 2025, Sal whose term ends in 2026, and then you would have Susan whose term ends, that's the one I don't know.
2029.
If it's the 2024, then it's gonna be 2029, right?
Yeah.
And then the 27 and 28 are the vacant one, the other two vacant ones, 27 and 28, that you would select from.
Yeah,
Yeah, so Susan, 2029, that makes sense.
yeah.
And then 7 and 8, do we have a preference on who would get 27 and who would get 28?
I don't think there's, at least for me, I don't think there's a strong preference. I thought that Kevin's IRB experience was a good credential to me. It read as something that I think
Yeah.
would be a good fit for
Okay.
following sort of the expectations of this role. Not to say I don't expect Laura to do
So
the same,
put-
but
so
that's
put
something
him in
that
the
I'd do
28.
the 2028 for him and
For
then
Kevin.
2027 for Laura. That would be my first instinct, but
Okay.
if others think differently, that's fine as well.
No, that's fine.
That makes sense.
And I think Deanna was looking for the most recent one. I think that's what she stepped out to do. So maybe whenever she gets back, I can make a motion unless the information changes.
Okay.
Okay, and how many, does that fill them all?
That should fill the ethics board, yes.
Jacob, do you know if there's been some interest in the housing committee recently? I don't know where we stand with that. I don't think we're
it's-
ready to appoint.
I think we had one person who reached out to express doing it, and I needed to get back to her about
Okay.
sort of getting the formal.
Well, yeah, and we're still, because they're working with the rotating chair right now, it's a little
Yeah.
up there with the procedure review for bringing them up to the.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, oh, thank you.
I think if the committee is largely in consensus, then we could just both bring it forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think that what I want to do is just get sort of like a more formal letter of interest, and then we can maybe do it, maybe I'll get back to her and we'll do it the next meeting.
We'll need to do that. Years
Yeah.
ago, somebody got appointed and wasn't interested in being
Yeah.
appointed.
Well,
Yeah, no,
I
that's-
We learned our lesson
This
the hard
is
way.
someone who's been
Not
attending
during my
meetings and
time.
reached out
And she
expressing
did,
interest.
she emailed
but I
expressing
did
interest, but we
follow
don't
up
have the
with,
full materials.
Yeah, I think we're both probably on that. So this has 2024, 2027 as vacant, 2025, 2026, 2029. So I'm assuming one of these just didn't get, I assume the 2024 didn't get updated at one point because there'd be one,
There were
Yeah.
two people that never took
never
their
took the
oaths.
oath. Yeah.
And, or one person didn't take their oath and the other moved out away.
Yes,
Right.
So those are the years.
But they'll
and it
fill
never
in.
got, nothing happened
Yeah.
with those
yeah.
two.
But they'll fill in the gaps, right? It'll be 25, 26,
Those
27,
will
28,
be.
29. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, great. So that's what we thought.
Yes.
So, yes, Chris?
One thing, I just wanna make sure that you're remembering that you have a
Yes,
provision in your
political, yeah,
code,
yeah.
Yes.
which
know.
you should verify
We
for
did.
these appointments,
We
before you
did.
make additional appointments, that no more than 3 members may be enrolled in the same political party.
We did.
Yeah.
And no member shall hold office in a political party, so you just wanna make sure that you are complying with those provisions, please.
Yes.
We did.
Yeah, 2 of the 3 current members are unaffiliated. So that's one thing that I know doesn't create a complication for a political party, and I don't think we have any reason to expect that either of these people are holding a position within a political party.
Okay. So are you making a motion to reappoint Susan Simon to the ethics board?
She's already on it.
She's already.
Oh,
Yeah,
she
she's
made
on the
it,
most
she
recent.
made
Yeah,
it
we
back.
did that earlier this year. So I'd make a motion to appoint Kevin Kavanaugh to a seat on the ethics board for a term ending 2028. And
Wait, I'm sorry, who?
Kevin
Kevin
Kavanaugh.
Kavanaugh.
Kevin to 28, okay,
Yes.
got it, sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
No
And
worries.
then Laura Roberts for a term ending 2027.
Laura Roberts, 2027.
I need a letter of interest for Park.
I'll send it up for you.
I'll second the motion.
Very good. Any further discussion? My discussion is thank you, Laura and Kevin for
Yes.
stepping up
Vote?
and participating. No, that was my discussion. Let's vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Folks, that concludes our agenda items for this evening. I would like to thank you all once again. Stay healthy. It was 42 degrees this morning. Enjoy the beautiful weather while it's still here. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion. We go into attorney-client session. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good night. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming. Have a wonderful evening.